All right, welcome back to week 2 of the Transfer Portal Gambling Podcast, brought to you by No Context CFB. I'm here joined again with my co-host Matt and our full-time guest picker Mike May. How you guys doing?
Good.
Good, man.
So we're excited to be back. It's going to be same layout as always. We're going to go through the previous slate, what happened last week, a couple of things to look out for. And then, of course, we're always going to go through our picks, and we're going to put our picks out before the slate of games. So you can follow along, you could tail us, you could fade us, you could do whatever you want, but we're going to keep our records all season long with our over-unders, our favorites, our underdogs, and, of course, our locks of the week. So before we dive into it, this episode is brought to you by Home Field Apparel. Home Field is a premium collegiate apparel brand based in Indianapolis, and they're committed to creating incredibly comfortable, officially licensed apparel with vintage college designs. They've got a growing collection of over 150 designs to choose from, including your favorite teams, with new teams being added every single week. And also, if you're new to the Home Field Apparel brand, if you're a first-time customer, you could use our promo code PORTAL, PORTAL, to get 15% off your first order. That's promo code PORTAL, PORTAL, to get 15% off your first order. So that link is in the description of our this podcast and anywhere you follow us. So like and subscribe, follow us here, follow us on Twitter, tportalcfb, and our website, thetransferportal.cfb.com. And also, last plug, our magazine that we sold, preview magazine for this season, still on sale if you want to check it out. There's a lot of information, a lot of things that it went over, a lot of interviews. And if you went through it, you actually would have gotten an insight into Riley Leonard, who put on a show against Clemson earlier this week. So a lot of good stuff to plug there and take a look at if you want to get a little more insight as we're getting into early parts of the season. So let's get into it, guys. Week 2, let's start with our week 1 recap. So week 1, a lot of games, not too many ranked games, not too many high-profile games. I would say the biggest high-profile game was the Battle of the Carolinas, which wasn't really as close as everyone thought it would be. But it seemed to me from us, from our gambling side, and from just about everybody I follow in the gambling space, Vegas cleaned up. So how do we feel? How do we feel personally about gambling? How do we feel about how everyone did? I'll start with you, Mike, with this past week.
So not feeling super great about this past. Anybody that tailed all of us would be doing super great. So obviously it's a tough start to the season. I saw one of our rival competitors have a pretty good tweet saying wise men make observations from week 1. Foolish men make conclusions. So there was a lot of stuff that happened week 1 with some big upsets, and obviously Clemson looking bad, TCU getting out-dueled in Colorado like that. There was some awesome. I'm so happy it's back. That's what I'll say. Conclusion is I'm so happy it's back.
I'm so happy it's back, and thankfully Dion has receipts on the people who doubted him, and not the receipts on the gamblers who did absolutely terrible. But good for him. That was a huge win. I mean, Duke basically putting Dabo Swinney on the hot seat. Everyone thought it was a DJ Uiagalelei problem and that he couldn't run their offense. But my God, Clemson looked inept. But Matt, what about you? What are your big takeaways from week 1?
Week 1's always tough, just because there's so many big spreads out there that if you bet on a favorite and they have to cover 31 points, they little off in the first half, they only cover by 28. So week 1's always just a little tough. But overall, I think a lot of the picks I liked and I didn't say are the ones that hit. Like, I really like Duke, and I thought double digits at Duke was something that I should have looked at, and I did bet it, but I just didn't talk about it here. So I should have talked about more of the things that I liked. Is my conclusion.
Yeah, no, it's week 1 super tough with the huge spreads. I mean, we'll talk about it, but my lock was Ohio State. Ohio State came out the gate super slow. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. had 2 catches on the night. Like, just overall, they took care of business. They did fine, but just overall, not you can't do that. Ohio State, now everyone's starting to question if they're top 5. But
Marv had 2 and Emeka had 3 of 2 of the top 4 wide receivers in the country, and they have 5 total catches combined.
Yeah, people are talking about both of them going like in the top 10 in the draft. Crazy. So I don't know, but that, and then you have the other side of the coin, which is Mike, your boy James Franklin, very aware of what the spread is, and doing his boosters a favor and putting up a late score to cover. I think it was 20.5. So that was good looks there from Happy Valley. I was actually at the game, so it was awesome. But yeah, and we'll get to some of the other picks that we don't necessarily put on our card. At the end of the show, we'll cover some of our other thoughts, things that we're early in the week thinking about before we start to get close to the weekend and actual game day. So keeping on the trend of week one, personal bad beats. I'll start with this, not to copy the Scott Van Pelt section of his show, but personal things that we've experienced. I actually was on the other side, and this was a good beat, I guess you could call it. But I had the over for Elon, and I think it was Wake Forest, and it was 53.5. And while down 23 points, Elon drove the field, took their time from about the 20-yard line, and I didn't even have the game on. I was just refreshing this constantly, and I saw the clock winding down, and I was like, all right, this is over. And they kicked a field goal down 23 just to cover the over. So props to that coach, and maybe he just wanted to make sure his kicker knew how to kick in crunch time for future games when they're actually in it. That might be the talking point for him, but fantastic win for me. Squeaked that one out. So I'm happy to pull that off. But what about you guys? Matt, I'll start with you. Any big, close spread games that caught your eye?
I thought mine was going to be a good luck one because I had Louisville -7.5. They go up 1 and get the ball back. Then 4 minutes left, they're on their own 20. I'm thinking, okay, they're just going to chew this clock out, kick a field goal maybe, and the game's going to be over. First play, they bust out a 75-yard run, go up 8, and I'm like, oh, we're good. Then they get a turnover on 4th and 1, so they have the ball on their 34. Get a first 2 minutes left, get a first down, the game's over. They don't get a first down, kick the field goal, we're up 11. Then 1 minute left, they just play the softest coverage you've ever seen and allow them to drive down the field in a minute and score a touchdown. Just drop 8 back, everyone 30 yards off the ball. Just the most lax coverage you've ever seen.
Yeah, it's like the defensive running out the clock. Oh my God. What about you, Mike?
So mine was the parlay pick from last week. So I know you guys gave me a hard time having the low odds to even money, but BC was the last leg of that bet. And I thought that was pure money. I was like, I'm gonna hedge it a little bit because it was like plus 300 for Northern Illinois. But man, big fat L in overtime, 27-24. All I needed to do was win.
Oh, it's the worst when you have a parlay and you have like the last leg just hanging on. I tend to, when I put in like longer or bigger parlays like during the season, I always tend to have like a couple of games at noon, and then I'll put in like a money line Alabama game like at night or something, just to like USC, just to be like, I don't want to be able to I don't want to stress about this. I don't want to stress about them covering. Just straight up give me a W. But yeah, no, BC, that was bad. The 3-point loss in overtime is brutal. But moving on to week 2, we got a couple ranked games. It's still, early in the season. There's not really a lot of conference matchups yet. There's not a whole lot in terms of ranked games, but we got 2 ranked games. The first one, Ole Miss at Tulane. Ole Miss came out firing last week. They looked good. Tulane came out firing too, but Ole Miss looked really like back in their SEC heyday. And they're favored by 7, over under 64.5 at Tulane. So what do you guys think about that? I'll start with you, Matt, and then Mike, and then we'll talk about the other game of the week.
I'm looking at the under there. I didn't like Tulane put up 37 last week, but it was to me that was more South Alabama's defense playing bad because they allowed Michael Pratt to complete 14 to 15 passes when he returns none of his top receivers and doesn't have his top running back. So I just don't believe in that offense being what it is. And then obviously Ole Miss put up 73 on some FCS school. So sure, they scored 73 points. I don't see them doing that again this week. So I'm on the under there if I was going to say anything, but I think Ole Miss should win, but I don't think it'll be that high scoring.
Yeah, no, the only reason I'm sort of against you on that, I do think Ole Miss wins. I think they cover. It's at 7 now, but I actually do think I like the over. I probably not sure if I'm going to bet it yet, but it literally went up 5 points since it opened at 59.5. So 64.5 points. I think that Ole Miss is going to come out firing and Tulane and Michael Pratt just have to throw the ball. So I think they'll try to catch up. They'll lose by 14, but we'll see. But what do you think, Mike?
I don't like any spread in this game. This is a stay away for me. I think Tulane could win. You know, the home field means something in Louisiana. So the spread's a stay away for me. I'm the over moving that much makes me think it's a sucker bet. But I'm for sure going to watch the game. That's all I can tell you. I think it's going to be fun.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of sucker bets, the other big game of the week, the one of the biggest games, of the season is early. It's the rematch of last year, Texas at Alabama this time. So in Tuscaloosa, Alabama's favored by 7. The over under currently is at 54.5. Huge game. Obviously, I'm a homer, so I'll let you guys take the lead on this. But to set the stage a little bit, this was a huge game last year when Texas, was fighting to be back, let's say. And Quinn Ewers had a fantastic game until he was knocked out with I think a collarbone injury, and they were really in control of that game before that, and that was with Bryce Young on the field. So a huge turn in their season, huge turn in that game. Couple of questionable calls there, but I think Texas is furious coming back, but they didn't look so good week 1. Alabama preseason, people doubted them a little bit just because they didn't know who the quarterback would be. And Jalen Milrose or Jalen Milroe?
No, absolutely.
Yeah, Jalen Milroe. My God, he balled out week 1. He looks like everything that they thought he would be as a prospect. So they're a little frightening. I'll let you start, Mike. What do you think about this game? Are you going to touch this game, or are you just going to watch it as a fan?
Oh, I'm touching this game. So I texted you on Saturday. I think I said I'm not going to touch the spread if it's a touchdown, because I think that's probably right, and that's where it's starting and staying. But I love the over on this 54.5. The game last year was 20-17, something like that. It was less than 40.
And there was a lot scored early too, which was crazy.
Yeah. But Texas didn't really play super well against Rice and still put up 30-some points. Milroe looks good. I think this is going to be a fun game to watch, and I think it's going to be high scoring. I think it's going to be more similar to the Tennessee Alabama game that we saw last year versus the Alabama Texas game.
Yeah, that's 100% what I think. I mean, and toot my own horn, I was at that game too. That game was awesome. But I think it's going to be that too. I mentally was ready for this spread to be mid 60s. That's what it opened at. When I opened up the app today and I was taking a look on my bookie, it's at 54.5, and I saw it go down from 64.5 to 54.5, and that makes me nervous that it's a sucker bet, because 54.5 seems way too low. I think it's currently Alabama -7. I think it opened at 7.5. I think that's probably the right spread. I'm probably going to emotionally take Texas, but that's not going to be an official pick. I don't want anyone tailing me on that. No, I don't want no one blaming me on that. But yeah, I think this is going to be a super exciting game. I personally think it's going to be fireworks. What do you think, Matt?
I'll probably buy the half point and get it up to +7.5 for Texas, because Texas should have won this game last year. They were the better team. And I don't think Alabama's improved that much over last year, and it's probably worse considering the downgrade from Bryce Young. So I'll probably stay with +7.5, because I just think if you look at the way this game went last year, as long as Texas plays like they did in the first quarter half of last game, they were the better team. So I'll probably say take +7.5. I agree with you guys at the over. We'll probably hit 54.5. It's just such a low number.
It does feel like a sucker bet, but I mean, some of the sucker bets, they're just wrong, and you got to take them. So, but yeah, moving on to what we actually did last week and what we're going to do this week in terms of our picks. When we keep score, I know we put out 7 picks total. 5 of them are going to count towards our every single week score that we're putting out. We're going to put out a graphic. We're going to put out our standings and everything like that. The 5 picks are going to count are the ones that are against the spread, over and under, and then our lock of the week. So 1 over, 1 under, 1 favorite, 1 underdog, and then a lock of the week, all with the points. And then the 2 that aren't going to count, but we're totally going to flaunt them if we win, are the true upset. So anything, 3 points or 2.5 points or higher, or +135, and our parlay of the week. Got to be plus money. And looking at last week, I know we talked a little bit about this being a bloodbath. Right now, we're not doing too good, boys. Everyone's under 500. We got Matt and I both 2-3, except I actually lost my lock of the week, Ohio State -30. Matt won his with Penn State, and Mike in the basement 1-4. Your only win was Jimmy Franklin hitting the 20.5, doing you a favor. So how do we feel this week, Mike? I'll start with you. We got. Do you want to review last week and how you feel?
I definitely want to start with a clean slate and not review last week. I hope everybody faded me last week, except on Jimmy Franklin's bad beat. But it can only go up from here, I guess, right?
Yeah, only up from here, and you guys both hit the lock of the week. Matt, what do you think?
I mean, I went 2-3, and my worst loss was on the Ohio State over. Like, so basically the same thing as you, -30. I scoring 23 points against Indiana is crazy, but I was still profitable because I hit a parlay at plus 350, so 10 would have paid out 45. So I was still profitable in general.
That's a good. You got to flex those when you hit it. I think I actually liked. I mean, I liked your parlay, Mike. Obviously, Matt's yours was good. Mike, I liked yours. The only thing, obviously, BC with the bad beat, losing in overtime. But I think I got a little over my skis with my parlay, going for full points, big boys only parlay. That was, in the plus 400 something range. I think I got to keep it. I think I got to keep it a little more even keeled for this week. So I got something cooked up a little bit later in the show. And before we get to our picks, I just want to give a little bit of a plug. I actually run another Twitter account called @BetTheSystem, and the system is a purely analytical way to look at gambling. It highlights reverse line movement, and highlights picks from sharp bettors, where the money is, where the public's going, the recent 5 games. There's a couple of factors that go into it, but it puts out picks, every game day. And last season, I think in total, it went about 56-57%, with NFL being 60% and college being about 54%. So I'll keep that updated too. I'll put, the links and stuff in our Twitter and when this gets tweeted out as well. But I wanted to give a little bit of a plug because I might start to pepper in some of the system picks as well. But we might be able to take our bets and see how they do against, the system and what I call the computer that's going to go hopefully in the mid 50s% wise of gambling.
It went 6-0 week 0, right? So what I saw?
It went 6-0 on Friday of week 1. It went 5-11 on Saturday of week 1. And then it had Duke and Clemson with the under. It was pretty close to having Duke. I didn't officially put it in for Duke though, but it ended up, I think, for all of week 1 combined, I think it went exactly even. I think it went 11-11. So not terrible, but we obviously want to up that because you're not going to win units just going even on under picks. But yeah, so I'll plug some of the system as we move along and as the season goes along. But for what we're doing for our picks, let's get into our official picks of this week. Again, we got 5 picks that we're doing that are part of our card. And then we're going to throw in a true underdog, an upset, and then our parlay of the week. So we're going to start with our over for our 5 picks. Matt, I'll start with you. What's an over that you're looking at that you're putting on the card this week?
It's a big over. It's 69.5 points, but it's USC Stanford. USC offense. We know what they are. One of the best offenses in the country. They're going to put up points. And then Stanford's offense has surprised me through the first 2 weeks. They've been pretty exciting. They're running like an air raid kind of style, and it's put up decent points the first 2 weeks. And USC's defense is obviously very shaky, so I'm counting on USC to just get down the field whenever they want. Like the Stanford defense let Hawaii pretty much throw all over them. So Caleb Williams is probably going to throw for 700 or something like that. So I'm counting on USC to run up the score, put up in the 50s or 60s, and then Stanford to put up 2 or 3 touchdowns and get us over 70.
Yeah, you're looking at this to be basically another tune-up game for them. So, yeah, I do like that. I think I like the idea of Caleb Williams putting up 50 points, but 69.5 points is so damn high. But speaking of the complete opposite of that pick, I'm going against all judgment, and all common sense, and I'm going Iowa State over 36. I know this is going to be a completely hated pick. This might be the biggest trashed pick online. Death taxes and the under in the Iowa State game is normally something to set your watch to, but I'm putting so many chips into Brian France's contract and the fact that he's got to average 25 points. And if you can't score points, last week they only had 24. So right now he's already under that. And you know their schedule is going to get harder. They're not going to score a whole lot against Ohio States and Michigans of the world, especially when it gets colder. I think this is pure desperation mode, and Cade McNamara's got to throw the ball as much as possible. So I'm hoping to see basically like a 24 or a 32, 35, 20 game or something, and this gets significantly over 36, but I got to do it. I know you guys are going to make fun of it, but Iowa State over 36.
That is probably the highest and the lowest total on the cards. Both on our over.
Yeah, we cover everything on the show. So. But what you got, Mike? Give us your over.
All right. First, I got to trash your pick just because they let me down last week. I thought that was a sure give me playing Utah State like it's 24 points, 24-12 or something like that. It was the final.
Brutal.
But I got the over that I talked above, Texas and Bama. So I think Quinn Ewers had a bad game. We talked. He had a bad throwing game, throwing the deep ball. Milroe is the real deal. You're not gonna limit him to nothing. So even if it's a 35-30 game, that buys you 10 points.
Yeah, and I think a not underrated part, but a part that no one's necessarily talking about is the fact that both offensive lines are really good. Everyone normally knows Alabama's offensive line's good. I think they're ranked top 4 in the country this year, but Texas has I think 2 guys that are preseason second, third team All-Americans on the offensive line. I think they're returning all 5 starters. Their offensive line is definitely pretty good, and it's probably going to be able to hold up better than some other offensive lines against Alabama. So I'm hoping that, and Sark has some creativity on offense to move the ball downfield, because Alabama's going to score. But let's move over to our under. I'll get started with this under. This is a little bit of an off the wall pick, but I have Texas State at UTSA under 65.5. I think mostly what I base this pick on is being super underwhelmed with UTSA's offense. I think UTSA, I forget how much they're favored by, but Frank Harris, I thought, was going to blow the doors off last week, and he just kind of didn't. And UTSA didn't really, impress me super much, like a whole bunch. Excuse me, but I think they'll still score in the 30s, maybe the 40s, and Texas State, I just don't think is going to be able to match them and allow UTSA to kind of run out the clock in the second half. So I see that game being somewhere in the mid 50s. I think that should cover relatively easily, but that's my under pick, 65.5 for Texas State and UTSA. So what about you, Mike? I'll jump over to you next.
All right, I got Wisconsin at Washington State under 58.5. It's a gut pick more than anything. So the Wisconsin put up 50 something last week. I think Washington State put up 50. But they were playing Colorado State. So that doesn't really count. It's at Washington State, which means something. So Wisconsin's traveling west. Washington State's kind of them and Oregon State are on their lone Pac-12 audition right now. So I think Wisconsin's defense is really, really good. So I don't see Washington State scoring much. And I think Washington State's going to be amped up. And I think Wisconsin's going to lean on the run game. So I don't see this going near 60.
I might have to fade you on this one, but I'm not sure. I know that was Colorado State last week, but Cam Ward looked really good. I think Tanner Mordecai is very, very, very good. I know they have a great run game. They're not going to break 80-yard runs. I think if it's crap weather in the Pacific Northwest, then maybe they might not throw the ball as much. But we'll see how it holds up. But I don't know. I think Luke Fickell's still ironing out some stuff on the defense, so I think there might be some back and forth points. I do like Wisconsin in this game, but I think the spread's 6. But yeah, what do you think, Matt, about that and my pick? And then what do you got for your under?
I like yours. UTSA's offense looked really bad, only putting up 14 against a Houston team that, like, it's an okay defense, but it's not a very strong defense at all. Frank Harris just looked out of sorts really the whole game. Then for the Wisconsin Washington State thing, I was really underwhelmed with Wisconsin last week. Buffalo was giving them a game up until midway through the third quarter, which is, I like Buffalo as a back team, but that's still not something that should be happening realistically. So I think the under is decent there. I don't think that offense is clicking the way it needs to yet. Maybe another week they are, but I like the under pick there. I'm going back to, I had Miami, Ohio last week, and they hit for the under on me last week. They put up 3, I think. So I like that. And then they're facing UMass, which is one of the worst teams in the country. Their offense isn't good. It's a low under. It's at 44. So it has to be a really low scoring game, but I think both of these offenses are just pretty stinky. I don't think they'll be scoring a lot of football points.
Yeah, I actually thought Miami, Ohio would put up way more of a fight against Miami. I know, Mike, you were talking about that last week, how much like trash they were talking and stuff, and just, my God, that was brutal. So no, I do like that, and it's one of those things where it's like, do you really believe in the research you did? Because 44 is a super low number, but yeah, I can't see them each getting into the 20s. Well, but we'll see. All right, so let's jump over to our favorite. So the team that we're giving points, and we know we are betting that they're going to cover the spread. Mike, I'll start with you here. Who do you got as your favorite lock for this, or favorite pick for this week?
I got Oregon by a touchdown over Texas Tech. It's in Lubbock, so I don't love that. But Oregon looked like a well-oiled machine last week. I know
This
that
is the year.
it was basically a scrimmage game, but this is the first challenge that they have, and I don't know how much did they give up last? There was single digits they gave up last week, right?
Yeah, it was like 81 to like 7 or 3 or something.
Yeah.
It was something absurd.
So their defense looked fast. I don't. I forget who they were playing, but their defense looked fast. So I'm hoping
Portland
that their
State.
defense is Portland State. There we go.
The juggernaut of Portland State.
The fake PSU. But I still think they're more than a touchdown favor over Texas Tech.
Yeah, so they're at 6.5 officially. So if you get a touchdown, you win that. But I do like that pick. The only thing that made me a little nervous, I do like Tyler Stowe at Texas Tech, and I think they can put up points. And again, I'm kind of throwing out, Portland State game. Like, I mean, you could write in stone the Bo Nix tweet that goes viral every single time he throws for a couple touchdowns. But I mean, this might be the year, man. He looked good at the end of last year. You can have zero complaints, for week 1. So we'll see. They should win this. I think they ranked like 12 right now in the AP. So they should be able to cover this. I do think it's a good bet. I'll probably be tailing that. But Matt, what do you got? What do you think about that? And then what do you got for your favorite?
I think that's a good pick. Like, if Oregon wants to be taken as serious contenders in the Pac-12, you have to be able to beat this Texas Tech team by a touchdown. So if they are what they think we are, they should beat Texas Tech by at least a touchdown. I have Mississippi State -9 against Arizona. I just think they're a significantly better football team. I think Arizona's like a bottom 2 or 3 team in the Pac-12, and Mississippi State's a completely middle of the pack SEC team. And Mississippi State's at home, so I like that. And Jaden Delora had a good game last week, which by the Jaden Delora rules means he's automatically going to throw like 3 picks this week. That's just how his roller coaster goes. So, and I think Mississippi State's a good enough defense that they can take advantage of his inconsistencies and force a turnover too, at least.
Yeah, I like that pick. It's mostly just betting against Arizona as much as it's betting Mississippi State. But yeah, so Mississippi State -9. My pick is Notre Dame -7.5 at NC State. I think Sam Hartman is criminally underrated still. I can't believe that he's not getting an incredible amount of love. I picked him preseason to be in New York as a Heisman finalist, and I think the dude is going to be all over climbing up draft boards when April comes around. But 7.5, I do hate that I don't get it at an even 7 or 6.5. But really looking into this game, I think NC State, like losing who they have, like Devin Leary that they lost. I just don't think NC State's really that good of a football team. And Notre Dame, if their secondary plays the way they can, they have a decent run game. They should just be able to put up, go up 2-3 scores immediately and then just lean on them with the run. They have one of the best offensive lines in the country. There's absolutely no reason that NC State should be within 10 points of Notre Dame at any point in the second half of this game. So what do you guys think? Fade, tail?
I'll talk about that pick later, but I love that pick.
Okay. All right, solid. Mike, what do you think?
I think if Notre Dame can run the ball, there's no way that game ends in single digits.
Yeah.
There's no way, because if they can't play, they being NC State, if they can't play nickel all game, they're going to be in trouble with Sam Hartman. But their D line is normally really good, but Notre Dame's offensive line is very, very good. So I expect Joel to push a lot of people around on Saturday.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. So moving to the other side of the coin, the opposite are underdogs for the week. I'll start us off with our underdog picks. I actually have Tulane +7 versus Ole Miss. I think it's a slightly risky pick, judging by how good Ole Miss looked, and Lane Kiffin just wanting to put up 1 billion points every single chance he gets. But I think Pratt looked really good. I think their offense for Tulane looked good, and I think they're a pretty physical team. So I think they're going to give Ole Miss all they can handle. They're at home, so like Mike said, it's definitely tough to be coming down to Louisiana, and I think I think it's going to be a relatively close game. I don't know if I see Tulane pulling it out, but I do love that I have 7 points. So I'll turn it over to you, Matt. What do you think, and who do you got?
I like that one staying within a touchdown. It should be a close game in my opinion. I have a pick we kind of talked about earlier, Texas State +13 against UTSA. I just really didn't think that UTSA team looked good at all. Like, the defense played fine, but I don't know that they're necessarily a better or worse defense than Baylor. And Texas State put up 42 against Baylor. So I think with GJ Kinney, he runs that super fast-paced offense. I think they had the 4th highest pace in the country in week 1. So I like them to be able to, even if UTSA does score on them a couple times, to be able to answer within 2 touchdowns. So I think they keep it within 13.
Yeah. I think they keep it within 13, and also kind of links up with what I think this game would be, which is kind of a little bit of a rock fight, not in terms of running the ball, but just inept offenses a little bit and trying to push a little bit too much and keeping this under 65.5. I love that pick, lining up with mine with +13 against UTSA at UTSA. Mike, what do you think about our picks, and who do you got for your underdog getting points this week?
The Tulane Ole Miss pick, I think the spread's probably right on that one. I might tail you on it, or I might stay away, but the Texas State one I do love. Still can't believe they beat Baylor, especially as bad as they did. I thought that was going to be a low scoring. Obviously, by my pick of the under last week, I thought that was going to be a low scoring, even behind the woodshed type of ordeal of low scoring. But my underdog pick was very, very close to being my lock of the week, and that's Cincy +7 at Pitt. So at Pitt's press conference last week, all they talked about was Penn State. At their press conference this week, all they're talking about is next week's backyard brawl, West Virginia. I think they have a lot of talent, but they're looking past this week. And Cincy has proven, even without Luke Fickell, the culture that is set there, they're tough. They're going to go into Pitt that never has a good crowd unless it's a big game, and I wouldn't be surprised if they pull off the victory.
Yeah, just calling out the other in-state rival of Pitt. True Penn State fan right there. They do not have a good crowd unless it's a big game. No, I do like that pick. I think Cincy culture doesn't disappear overnight. I think they built a pretty good culture there, especially on the defensive side of the ball. So I do like that pick. I might have to tail you on that pick too. All right, we'll move over to Matt first, but who is your upset? So a true upset, someone who's going to flip the script, and someone who's about +130, 135, or 2.5 point dog at a minimum. Who do you got pulling it off?
We talked about it earlier, but I really just think Texas is a better team than Bama. I had to talk about it because I knew you wouldn't be able to do it. So
Hey, last week I got called out, man. I was being a homer, and it didn't pay off for me the way it paid off for you guys. So
Yeah, so I figured that I'd talk about it since I knew you wouldn't want to talk about being a homer, but I think Texas is the better team. I don't think Bama is the Bama of the past. They are still I think they're still 2 in the AP, so they are still highly ranked. But I don't think this is your grandpa's Bama. I just think Texas is a better team at this stage. The only thing that
Yeah.
worries me about that is this game being in Tuscaloosa. That other than that, yeah.
Yeah, this game being in Tuscaloosa, definitely a problem. I can't tell if I like or don't like the fact that Texas, you know, I think last week the fact that it wasn't a cakewalk might be a good thing. It might have lit a fire, under their ass a little bit, which I think is a good thing. I think we knew they weren't going to sleepwalk into this game, but now especially they know from last year most of the same returning guys. They know they could compete this level, but they gotta actually push themselves this week.
Like Sark was in the locker room saying, "Hey, if we play like this against Bama, we're gonna get thrown around." So
yeah, that, and then just the tweets already calling for Quinn Ewers to be benched. I saw a couple beat writers going nuts, and they were like, "Oh, did you guys see Malik Murphy at the end of the game?" I was like, "All right, come on!" Like Quinn Ewers had he missed a few deep balls, but I'm pretty sure he put up like over 200 yards and had like 60% completion. Like, just let the kid throw over the head of a few people a few times. Let him settle in. But I think, yeah, this is a little bit of a revenge game. I love that pick. I'm obviously probably going to emotionally tail that, but I'm not going to do it on the show. My true upset is Miami. Miami at home against Texas A&M. They're a 4.5-point dog. I think Miami had a pretty good game last week. Their defense looked great against Miami of Ohio. I don't know if that's an indictment on Miami of Ohio or Miami's defense under Mario Cristobal looked good, but I'm banking on the fact that they looked good. I think Texas A&M way overplayed, and Connor Wiggum was basically the best quarterback in the country in terms of QBR last week. Fantastic, but not to take anything away from him, but I think Water's going to find its level a little bit. So I think he's going to take a little bit of a step back. Miami's going to be able to scheme a little bit, and Texas A&M, I think it's a close game late, and Miami's able to eke one out down in South Florida.
After Friday, after the Miami Bowl, I was fully emotionally ready for this to be my upset pick, and then Texas A&M's offense looked really good, and I went away from it because I as a West Coast Miami homer, I was fully ready for this to be my pick. I thought they should have won this game last year, and it was an ugly game last year. I think it was like 13-3, like ugly. So, but Texas A&M scared me a little bit.
Also, I need, in order for me to buy back into a team like this, and I'll talk about that in a little bit with Oklahoma, but in order for me to buy back into an A&M team, I got to see them do it against better competition over the span of a couple weeks, because as of right now, to me, they're still a completely sputtering team that I don't think Jimbo Fisher's 100% off the hot seat yet. I think them beating up on a team week one doesn't necessarily negate all the roller coaster that he's had the last couple of years. But what do you think, Mike? And then who do you got for your true upset?
I like the value of both of those, particularly the Texas one, because like you said, the best kind of victory is one where you win, but you have a lot of stuff to work on. So people don't feel, too good about themselves and know that, hey, there's work to be done. I definitely, the locker room is buzzing saying, hey, if we play like that, there's no way we're going to win. After Matt picked Boise State plus 14 or whatever versus Washington last week, I watched that game all the way through. That Boise State defense isn't bad. Michael Penix is a damn good quarterback. He made some really, really good throws. But early on, that was a close game. It was like 9-6 for a while. I think they're going to beat UCF. Home game after being in Washington State, and that I believe in their defense. I really do. I was thinking about putting the under for lock of the week on this one, but I'm going to go with the money line and put my chips there.
Nice. Boise State's defense definitely looked pretty good. I'm just not sure. I think I have like that weird bug feeling with John Reese Plumlee, and I can't. It's like the Johnny football. Like I don't really understand it. I don't really know what I'm looking at, but he just somehow just runs around people. He's more athletic than people. He'll just make random throws and then make boneheaded mistakes. But I'm terrified to bet against UCF in a game where I think it's close. I think what's the spread? It's like 3-4.
Oh man.
I think it was 3.5.
Yeah, so whenever it's like a one score game, I'm terrified to bet against them, and then maybe I still have it stuck in my head, but I just look at UCF and I just think points. So in my head, I'm like, all right, they're going to score a lot. I think it's Gene Chizik still there, and I have a thing with big name coaches at small schools. I'll call it. They just are itching to get back and the Power Five and just will beat up on anybody that they can. So I might have to fade you on this one or take UCF in the points. But Matt, what do you think about that?
I like that pick. I don't think Boise State losing to a top 10 Washington team is any indictment on them. So I like they looked good through the first half, and then their special teams kind of stunk it up a little bit, and the game kind of got away from them. But they held in for the first half. They were within, I think, like 9 points at halftime, and that's after holding Washington scoreless for the whole first quarter. So I like this Boise State team. I think they're competitive against Power 5 schools. So I think UCF should be a contest they could win.
Yeah, historically, as of this year, Power 5 school UCF. All right, yeah, no, good picks though, good picks all around, and we got two more picks, but the most important one, our lock of the week. I'm the only one who lost our lock of the week last week after going against the grain and not picking Penn State. But I'll start us off with my lock of the week. I'm picking an underdog, and I'm picking SMU plus 15.5 at Oklahoma. Oklahoma looked incredible last week. SMU definitely looked good, but Oklahoma looked incredible. I think I have the same mentality with this game that I do the Texas A&M game. I think water finds its level. I do think Brent Venables is a pretty good coach. We'll see just how good. I don't think he's as bad as he was last year, but I think his defense is going to be pretty good. I just don't think Dylan Gabriel is, that incredible. I think it was a little bit of a beating up, week one on a team just to try to show off a little bit. I see this being, a little bit of a tough start to a game and then a couple of just massive plays and huge jumps. I think Preston Stone with SMU, we're a huge fan of him at the transfer portal, and I think he's going to have a huge game. I think I picked him as one of my stars to watch this week in another piece of content that we're putting out. But Preston Stone, fantastic quarterback. Some even saying he's an upgrade over Tanner Mordecai, who went to Wisconsin. But I think they're going to have, I think this is going to be kind of a shootout and go up into, the 60s in terms of over under. But I do have them basically being within 10 points. So I have my lock of the week, SMU plus 15.5 at Oklahoma. So I'll turn it over to you, Matt. Who do you got?
Liam had been gassing up Preston Stone to me all offseason. He looked really good week one, so I like that pick.
He guessed up Riley Leonard too, and he was right about that too. So
I'll go back to a pick you had in your favorites. I have Notre Dame minus 7.5. I like Notre Dame's top. They're ranked, I think, 10 in the AP. So this is the top 10 team against the country against an NC State team that is like, they're fine, but they lose a quarterback. They do bring in Brennan Armstrong, but Brennan Armstrong really hasn't had a good year since 2020 or 2021, whenever that was, that he had a really good year at Virginia. He was really bad last year. It's why he had to transfer out. But I don't think this NC State is good enough to stay within single digits against Notre Dame. I think 7.5 is probably 4 or 5 points under what it should be, even with this game being at NC State.
Yeah, I think this is a double-digit game. I said it in my favorite pick, but I can't tell if I'm excited or scared that you and I are kind of reading from the same sheet of music, Matt. After last week, I think we might have made some good adjustments and reads, and we're moving in the right direction. But love that pick, obviously. Mike, what do you think of that and my pick, and who do you got for your lock?
I like both of your picks. We talked about the Notre Dame one before. Oklahoma, the only concern I have is it felt like they ran up the score last week. I don't know if they get into a situation where they could do it again. I don't know, that it might be a bad beat. would get you out of that. I took my lock of the week is Rutgers 9.5 versus Temple. The reason I'm laughing is I subjected my children to that travesty of the game, Rutgers versus Northwestern on Sunday. But because I watched that, man, that Wamsat quarterback, he's pretty good. He has a long throwing motion, but he throws the ball with some zip on it, and he is fast. And Rutgers defense, I know they were playing Northwestern, but Northwestern's still a Power 5 team, even though they're head coachless. They were pushing the Wildcats around. Temple barely squeaked out of that Akron game. I thought we were going to get the upset.
I thought so too.
But they barely squeaked out of that game against a mid-tier MAC opponent. So Rutgers they're the bottom tier of the Big Ten East, but man, they're better than they were last year. I'll say that.
I think Rutgers is a substantial upgrade over the DJ Irons led Akron.
I think I can't tell how I feel about the pick because I wasn't able to watch the game last week. Just looking at the box score though.
You're lucky. You're lucky you weren't able to.
Yeah, like the rock fights of the games that are Rutgers, and just man, Rutgers having to win by double digits when you're rooting for Rutgers is just brutal. So yeah, I don't know. I have to do a little bit more research, but if you got that as a lock of the week, man, you're 1-0 and I'm not, so I can't throw any stones right just yet. But all right, time for parlays, teasers of the week. We're gonna give you 3. It's got to be at least 3 legs, parlay or a teaser, whatever we want to do, but obviously has to be plus money. And then we'll give you what the actual odds are if you put all 3 of these in as of, obviously this taping on Wednesday night. But parlay teaser of the week, I'll let you start, Matt. Give us who you're putting together because you won last week. So the hot hand, who you got?
Historically, I have never lost a parlay. It's actually never happened in my life. I hit all the parlays I do. It's a very successful strategy. I went all favorites this week. Again, kind of keeping the same formula. Last week I had UNC last week, so I did have a dog technically, but I thought UNC was just a better team, so I didn't think they should have been dogs. But I have Iowa beating Iowa State. Should win. JMU, Utah, and Oregon, all money lines. All of those teams are around minus 300 to minus 200 favorites. Add all that up, that's a plus 301 parlay. And I just think in every game they're in, all those games, they're the substantially better team than who they're playing against.
Yeah, I like that parlay for the most part. I have actually 2 of those same teams with my parlay, and I do like Oregon for the money line. The only reason I didn't take the only reason I didn't take Iowa in my parlay is I was super nervous just putting all my chips in the middle with Brian Ferenz's offense and hoping they scored points. So I was terrified of the double bad beat there, but I do like that. My parlay a little bit less, but it's only 3 teams. Utah, James Madison, so same as you there, and then Wisconsin, all money line. So those 3 teams, I think they're all favored by close to a touchdown. We talked about a bunch of them already, and that's going to be plus 176 for that combined parlay. Those 3 money line. Mike, what do you got? What do you think of our picks, and what do you got?
I can't speak to the James Madison one, but I like the other ones. So I might even do a second parlay, adding Utah and Oregon for some big money on mine. But I got Big Ten money lines, Wisconsin, Rutgers, and Iowa. I just don't think Iowa State's very good at all. I know it's a rivalry game, so the point spread I would probably stay away from because it's possible they keep it close. So I don't see them beating Iowa. The Rutgers is my lock of the week, and Wisconsin, I don't see them losing to Washington State, Wazoo, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love that too. I'm not positive about the Rutgers, but 9.5, and you going money line with the parlay seems pretty good. You said that's at plus 180.
Plus 180, yeah.
No, I like that a lot. The only thing I'm slightly scared of is there's a lot of crossover between all of ours. So
All of us have Iowa, so when all or you don't have Iowa.
I don't know. I have Wisconsin. So
I'm connected to each of you. So when I lose and miss all my legs, I screw both of you. So that's the plan here.
Oh man, yeah, and the other thing too, Mike, I love that you did this, but I was so scared to put my lock of the week or to put some other kind of lock that I had previously in this because the idea of just one team just losing a slew of games on the show for me is something I can't stomach just yet. I got to get on the positive side of money, and then I can start getting cocky and putting in Notre Dame in my lock of the week and my you know teaser parlay, whatever, and throwing them out for everything. So we'll see if we can get on the positive side. I'll start to get a little more cocky with my my parlays again.
It's called a lock, man. It's not a pick. It's a lock.
I'm 0-1, man. I'm the only one on the show 0-1, so I gotta find my footing again with my lock of the week, and I'm the only one who went for an underdog too.
You should have stayed with the rest of us. Like we knew Penn State was winning. Yeah,
I went to the game. Like how going to the game, you always take the over. That's the first rule. And then if it's a team like that, I mean, you know Jimmy Franklin's going to try and pump up his boosters and stuff like that and get everyone excited for the big games later this season.
The over
ashamed of
that,
myself. Right? The over I think did hit in that
because they put up it was 45-24 or no, it wasn't that quite that high.
38.
It was 38. 15. Oh, so maybe it didn't hit.
The over under was 48 hit.
Oh, okay. All right. I think it was the late score that actually covered both. It covered the spread 20.5 and then the over, which fantastic move by James Franklin. So we appreciate that on the show. All right. So before we close out, got all our picks out. We'll put out the graphic. You guys could feed us. You guys could tail us, whatever you want to do. I think we're going to have a bounce back week, but Matt talked about, some other picks and some other things that, he was thinking about, that he put in, that he wanted to talk about, that he did win on. So we got to talk about all the other picks this week. What are other picks? I'll start with you, Matt. Other picks you got in your mind, ones you're thinking, not necessarily on the card, or if you have a double up pick, like, hey, I have 3 overs I love. What do you got?
So we talked about Ole Miss Tulane. And that spread, I actually just it's up to 67 now from 54.5. So I really like the under it at the 67 number. I don't think that I like, they think those are two teams that are going to put up points, but 67 is a lot of points. And I don't think they're going to quite put up that many. I think it's a low 60s, high 50s game, not necessarily high 60s. Then I have a Coastal Carolina minus 13.5 against Jacksonville State. I think Coastal was going to bounce back. They had a really rough game. The offense looked really disjointed against UCLA. So I think they're going to work on that more because they've been one of the more creative offensive in the country last year. Obviously, they lose their OC to, I think he went to,
did he go to Wisconsin? Was he, or?
Yes, I think. I wanted to say he went to Colorado, but that was Kent State's, not him. So they lost their OC. He's gone. But I think they still are a team that is a good offensive team, and I think they should be able to beat Jacksonville State by 2 touchdowns. And then the last one is Florida State minus 31 against Southern Miss. I just think this is a team that Florida State beat LSU by 21 last year, and that was the number 5 team in the country. So I think they should be able to beat Southern Miss by at least 10 points more than that. The Frank Gore Jr. train is not quite that strong to keep this game that close.
Yeah, no, I like all those. I think Grayson McCall's gonna have a pretty good game. The Ole Miss Tulane game, I have a similar pick on my side with Oregon Texas Tech. My gut saying that it's a trap game, and the fact that the spread's rocketed up all the way to 68.5, I think that's got to be a pick. But the Jacksonville State, I think the system had them pick them last week, and they completely disappointed. So I'm all about fading them and picking Coastal Carolina. But other picks, we already talked about Texas, Alabama. I think the over is a really good pick there. I'm a huge fan of Wisconsin. So Wisconsin at Washington State, they're -6. I have them in my parlay of the week, but I have the money line. I think they cover the 6. And then a couple other games that I have is FAU -3.5 at versus Ohio. So that's at home in Boca. I think FAU is going to be able to put up some points, and I think they're going to be able to cover 3.5. And then UCF, I know this is going directly against you, Mike, but I think UCF. I can't bet against Plumlee and Gene Chizik in a Group of 5 school trying to get, or I guess now a Power 5 school, but probably trying to get a bigger job and move forward. So I think he's going to run a super creative offense, and I could potentially see them scoring a whole lot. But what do you got, Mike?
On the blue turf, you could see them scoring a lot.
Hey, it makes you run faster, man.
All right, I got the A&M Miami matchup we talked about before. I got that over 51. 50.5 was the current total when I put the pick in. Both offenses looked good last week. I know Miami held Miami of Ohio to 3 points or whatever it was, but I see more than 50 points being scored in that game. I got Northwestern money line versus UTEP. Texas El Paso. Evanston's a tough place to play. Like they're still a Power 5 team. Like I said, against the Rutgers game, I think they won 20-3 or something like 24-3. The money line was almost even money, so I had to take it. And then my favorite one of these ones is App State versus UNC, under 58.5. So App State put up 45 or something like that against Austin P or Gardner Webb or someone like that. And then UNC obviously scored 30 and change against South Carolina. This game, they're always amped up for. So I think that very similarly when we talked about the Miami of Ohio and the U game, we said they're going to be amped up. There's going to be some overthrows. And that's exactly what happened in that first quarter. And the under hit for that. So I think we're going to see a similar piece here where it's a low scoring early portion of the game. I think Drake May's obviously going to pull away, but I don't think App State's going to score very many points.
Yeah, no, I think those are all good picks. I think with the UNC App State, it all depends on kind of I think how the game starts, like you said. So I do like that. My only fear is that UNC did look good against an SEC defense, even if it was South Carolina. So we'll see. But I do love the Northwestern pick. Talking about running faster on the blue turf, you run way slower on that tall grass. So I do think it's a little bit of a homer Big Ten pick, but I do think I like that, and I'll probably end up tailing that as well. But yeah, closing thoughts, Matt. I'll start with you. Anything else to look out for this week?
I like that UNC pick just because obviously South Carolina has like 5 wooden planks at O-line, but the UNC defense looked really good. Getting 9 sacks is not something that's easy to do, even with facing a bad O-line. So I think they should be able to hold App State to a fairly low number of points. So I really like that pick. Other than that, we talked about last week the new rule changing affecting the game, and also it definitely took off. I think they were saying 15 to like 11% of game time lower in general. So it numbers are going to be lower in general based off what we see. Obviously, Vegas is no dummy. They know this too, so it's not like you can get a sneaky pick with under there. But if in games that there are teams that are like Deke and Dunk and not big chunk plays, like looking for unders there might be the best way to go about that new rule.
Yeah, I think that was my biggest takeaway is I actually put more unders. I think unders were the most thing I bet the most of last week, and it was a bloodbath. Vegas, obviously, Mike, you called it, but Vegas knows more than we do, and the fact that they knew what the under should have been. I think the perfect thing though is what Matt said. I think looking out for dink and dunk teams in the second half of games, they're just going to hammer exactly 10-yard first downs and just let the clock bleed. It's going to be, instead of running the ball to let the clock bleed, you could just get someone, get a first down, walk up to the line slow, move a little bit slower, be able to run, 8-10 minute drives off the clock. So as we go along, we'll start to see some more dink and dunk offenses. But Mike, any last thoughts? And then we'll close it out here.
No, you guys are spot on. The Chip Kelly said at halftime, congratulations NCAA, we had 4 drives. I hope that the commercials were worth it or something to that extent. I think there's some for this week. I think there's some sneaky good games to watch. So I know the big ones, Tulane and Ole Miss, and Texas and Alabama are on it, but like it's going to be really interesting to see how some of the upset teams perform this week. So like Nebraska is not an easy win for Colorado. So that'll be interesting to see how Prime does.
I noticed we all stayed far away from that game.
Yeah, because like I don't. Like,
the spread has
so
moved 20 points now.
I have no idea how to judge what Colorado is about to be. And Matt Rule, I have no idea if he's installed the defense he wants yet at Nebraska. So we'll see, man.
Baylor was also a significant favorite. I forget who they're playing, but it wasn't like a scrub. And I was it'll be interesting to see how the teams that got upset or the teams that upset the big dogs respond. So even your Clemson's, I'm very, very interested.
Yeah, and I do love the Chip Kelly comment was very funny. But another thing that's nuts, I think you said like 11 to 15% of the games getting shaved off game time wise. I think there was a stat that said the runtime TV wise was basically identical. So Chip Kelly's right. It's just even more commercials. We're getting what we're paying for. So congrats NCAA, but guess what? We're still going to watch. So
the funny thing about that is in the first couple of games of the week, it felt like a lot of either TVs or clock operators didn't know the new rules, because I definitely saw first downs a couple of times and the clock was not moving. So
yeah, I saw a couple of them. Clock was not moving, and I saw one. I forget what game where someone got a first down under 2 minutes and they just let it run. And they were like, "Oh no, this is the new rule at 2 minutes. Then in the half." Then you have to stop the clock. It's week one for everybody. Well, it's a little bit rough, but I don't know. I'm kind of hoping that eventually they change this rule back, but I'm trying to figure out some kind of arbitrage gambling wise to be able to take advantage of it, but we'll see. But all right. But that's our show. Thank you, everyone. Once again, this has been the Transfer Portal Gambling Podcast. This is week 2, presented by No Context CFB. So we're going to be putting out our picks, all 5 of our picks that we're going to be tracking all season long, along with our records on our Twitter. So look out for that. And yeah, feel free to tail us, fade us, whatever you want to do, and let us know how you think about our picks. But we'll see you next week.